What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And this one is some of my final thoughts ahead of the Game Week 18 deadline. So I'm going to talk about captaincy, go through a free hit draft, and answer an absolute ton of your questions as well. It is also Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas if you're celebrating. If not, I hope you're having a great day, whatever you are doing. I should just quickly warn you before you listen to the video, I am recording this on the 23rd of December so that I can go out for dinner and beer with my wife tonight and not have to worry about recording a video on Christmas Eve. I know that runs the risk of the video being outdated, but if there's anything major, like a key player gets injured or something like that, which massively impacts all our decisions, I'll try and record a new video anyway, so you'll never see this one. Hopefully, I get away with it for the most part. There's no major injuries in the Arsenal Palace Carabao Cup game. There's no press conference information and stuff like that. And hopefully all these answers stay relevant. But you've been warned. It's your decision if you want to watch it. If you do, enjoy. If not, I'll catch you for the deadline stream tomorrow. Let's get into it. So captaincy this week, I think for most people, is probably down to just two players. So it's HAALAND against Forest away, or it's Ekitike against Wolves at home. As always, if you want to go for a slightly different pick and take a punt, that's absolutely fine. If Saka is fit and available, he's not terrible against Brighton at home. May well take the next penalty ahead of Alcaraz. If you wanted to go for Wirtz from Liverpool instead of Ekitike, that's also okay. I suspect, and we obviously haven't seen him get many returns this season, but I suspect that Wirtz will be quite good for bonus when he does get returns, a bit like a Bruno Fernandes. So like one assist could be worth like 4, 5, 6 points for him. And obviously if you can get a goal, even better. So I don't mind Wirtz either, but realistically, if we're talking about the most popular captains for Game Week 18, it's going to be HAALAND or Ekitike. Now, HAALAND is absolutely fine. He's never a bad pick. Yes, Forest away is not as good as Wolves at home, but Forest haven't been that great defensively this season, and they are sat in 17th place. So it's not a difficult fixture. HAALAND is perfectly fine. So if you're sat there thinking, I don't have Ekitike or I don't want to go against HAALAND's ownership, it's absolutely fine. He is just a good pick this week. I'm sure he'll get some chances in that game. If you've got Ekitike, though, it must be pretty tempting to captain him. 1, because it's Wolves at home. 2, because you know his minutes have to be good. 3, he's had a rest from the previous game as well. So he's going to start absolutely, and he'll probably play 80 plus minutes. And Wolves is just such a good fixture. And also, not everybody is going to own Ekitike this week, even though it will feel like they do. And even if people do own him, lots of people will be afraid to take the captain's armband off HAALAND. So I wouldn't say that Ekitike is like this super low-owned differential captain, but he will be more differential in terms of captaincy than HAALAND. So I would be tempted to do it. I'm trying to think of like reasons not to. I mean, Liverpool haven't been that great this season overall. Like, you look at that Spurs game, I mean, Spurs were there for the taking, especially when they were down to like 10 and 9 men. Just didn't happen. Wolves, I guess, put up a pretty good performance against Arsenal and made it difficult. And Arsenal have been better overall than Liverpool this year, so maybe Liverpool will also find it difficult. But it's at home to Wolves at Anfield. I can't think of any negatives. I mean, Ekitike probably won't have penalties. And I know we talk about penalties a lot, and it must get boring half the time, but it is important, right? HAALAND could play really bad, score 1 goal and get a penalty. I mean, that's almost what he did against Palace. Like, he wasn't great in that game. Scores a header, then gets a penalty later on, 13-pointer. Ekitike probably doesn't have that in his locker. But could he score 2 goals without penalties? Absolutely. Look, Forest away is a perfectly okay fixture to captain HAALAND in, but it's not no-brainer territory. Right, if that was Burnley at home, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It would just be HAALAND, but it's not this week. I'd be tempted to move it, but that's very easy to say when I'm sat here at the time recording, still without Ekitike in my team. But if you're ever going to take HAALAND on, this is the kind of week to do it. So I quite like the Ekitike punt, but HAALAND is absolutely fine. So for those of you with a free hit chip left, it's got to be used this week or next week. From Game Week 20 onwards, we'll all be given a new set of chips. So make sure you figure out which week is best for your team soon. If you're going to use it in Game Week 18, this is a draft that I came up with. Now, I'll address the elephant in the room straight away. In the 11, I've got Enzo Lafay. Now, I agree, he's not a great pick. He's not all that exciting to have in an 11 on free hit this week. But to get all the other players I wanted, which are all quite expensive, that was the only way I could do it. Like, I've already stripped lots of money off the bench. I've got Mark Guiu, Alderete and Mukiele. There wasn't much more I could do. So Lefay at 4.9 million, you know he's going to start. The fixture is good and he's on penalties. It's not the worst enabler. If you wanted to free up some money by downgrading some of the other players in the squad because you don't like the Lefay pick, that's absolutely fine. It's your free hit, but this is what I've come up with. So Enzo Lefay is in for Leeds at home. It's a free hit. You don't have to worry about him afterwards. Then I've gone for a triple up on Everton defence. I know a lot of people don't like tripling up. They see it as a risk. But Burnley away, pretty good fixture. Keane and Tarkowski, not bad goal threat, not bad for Defcons. And Pickford's always decent in goal. So if it does turn out that Burnley are going to have a really good game, you could even get save points out of Pickford, maybe attack and returns and Defcons from the other two. So I really like that. For my other defender in a 3-5-2, I've gone for Frimpong. Now, I am pretty certain that he will start this game. I don't know if he will be right wing. Because if Gomez is out and Bradley's not completely fit and Szoboszlai is also suspended, it may just be Frimpong right wing. Right back. How much license he gets to go forward? Probably quite a lot because that's the kind of player he is. So I can't 100% guarantee you he will start, but I think with the injuries and suspensions they've got, he kind of has to. And he is a huge differential who we know can be super attacking. Would I have him as a long-term pick? Not necessarily. But for this week, I quite like him. If you want to play it safe, which is perfectly reasonable, Van Dijk. Straightforward. Good for Defcons, good for attacking threat, will definitely start. That's not a bad pick either. And to be honest, if I was actually free hitting this week, I suspect by the deadline I will talk myself into going Van Dijk over Frimpong. But Frimpong is like the perfect free hit player. Very good chance he starts. No one owns him. Great fixture, really attacking. I'd be very tempted to go for it. Other midfielders alongside the great Enzo Lefay, Foden, Palmer, Wirtz and Cunha. Wirtz would be pretty much a no-brainer for me this week. There is an argument to be made to go double Liverpool defence instead. Like if you're not quite sure about Wirtz, you could go for Van Dijk in a 4-4-2. You could drop one of the Everton players and go for Van Dijk instead. But I would probably go for Wirtz. Again, you know the minutes are going to be good this week with the injuries they've got. And it's a great fixture. Cunha could be on penalties with Fernandes out. It's a home game against Newcastle. Man United won't be so good without Fernandes, but I still think Cunha will get chances. And Foden's just great, right? We know that. Cole Palmer, you could definitely make an argument that Saka is safer for minutes if he gets benched in the Carabao Cup, because obviously Palmer's struggling with this groin problem. But he played 79 minutes against Newcastle. He's got a full week off before the Villa game. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start. And again, he's a huge differential. And most of us that are not free hitting are too afraid to buy him. So his ownership's not going to suddenly skyrocket. Again, like Frimpong, almost a perfect player to pick on a free hit. But if you want to go safer, Van Dijk and Saka instead. And then up front is Haaland and Ekitike. I don't think you'll find too many people arguing against that. I don't think there's any other players I would consider for Liverpool. I mean, maybe you could go for Kirkes and Frimpong. I guess you've always got the slight worry about whether Robertson will start. Arsenal, I think Saka, Calafiori, Timber, Raya are all worth considering. I don't know if they're better than any of the players that I've picked. Everton attackers, like, would I put Grealish or Barry in ahead of any of these players? I don't think so. No other Chelsea players against Villa. No other Sunderland players against Leeds. Although, if you wanted your innate, like, if actually, to be honest, now I'm not going to go back and record this, but now I'm thinking about it as I record. You could just play 4-4-2 instead of Enzo Lefay and play Mukiele or Alderete. Like Mukiele, pretty good attacking wise, not bad for Defcons, good chance of a clean sheet. Arguably, he's better than Enzo Lefay. So you could play 4-4-2, but I don't think there's anyone else I would consider. And like, I mean, you could go for a Palace defender against Spurs, but that feels a bit boring on free hit. So I quite like that. Feel free to change it around however you want, but it's a pretty nice week for free hit, and that's a pretty nice free hit team, in my humble opinion. So let's get into some of your questions. Is it crazy to keep Thiago and not sell him for Ekitike, even when you have a lot of free transfers? Now, I did speak about this in yesterday's team selection video, so I won't go into it again in great detail, but ultimately, no. It is not crazy to keep Thiago. He hasn't become this absolutely terrible FPL pick overnight. Yes, he had no shots against Leeds, no shots against Wolves. It's not great. But do we think that's a sign of things to come? Is he forever going to have no shots? Probably not. He's still, as far as we know, nailed on. The minutes are good. He's on penalties. Yes, there is a chance he gets benched for one of the games over Christmas, but it might just be that he starts them all and gets subbed early in a couple of games. Most of the time, he plays close to 90 minutes. 3 home games next 4, Bournemouth, Spurs, Sunderland, not bad at all. The away game is Everton. He's still fine to keep. Now, it is one of those situations where if Ekitike scores a hat-trick against Wolves, you will feel stupid. I'm in exactly the same boat where I might not get Ekitike. It will feel stupid. But without that hindsight, I think Thiago is fine. I also think Ekitike is a really good pick right now, but it's okay not to sell one, especially if that money that you save by not buying Ekitike is used well elsewhere. So, as I always say, people always go from one extreme to another. Thiago a few weeks ago, absolutely essential to buy, now absolutely terrible. He's probably somewhere in between. Like, the information with Ekitike has changed, right? Isak is now injured. We know Ekitike's minutes go up. That is information we should process and use for our decisions. It doesn't mean Ekitike is absolutely essential, but he is a very good pick. It is not crazy if you don't want to make that transfer, but also, if you do, it is absolutely reasonable to do it. So in isolation, who's better, Ekitike or Cunha? Now, this is one of those questions where I think the answer is probably a lot closer than people will give it credit for. If I could only have one, which one would it be? Cunha's minutes are likely to be just as good as Ekitike's, if not slightly better, I think. And also, Cunha's more likely to be on penalties. Ekitike might get them against Wolves, but after that, it's probably Szoboszlai. Šeško might get them for Man United, but I think it's more likely it's Cunha. I think for the next 2 game weeks, I'd prefer to have Ekitike. Wolves at home, Leeds at home is better than Newcastle at home, Wolves at home, but not by a million miles. For the next 4, I'd rather have Cunha. Because in 20 and 21, Ekitike's got Fulham away, Arsenal away. Whereas for Man United, it's Leeds away, Burnley away. And also, you've got to factor in the money. Like, Ekitike's already up to 8.9 million. Could be 9 million soon. Cunha's only 8 million. And maybe later on, if you need a jump-off point, there's probably going to be more midfielders to buy than forward. So, it's probably Ekitike, especially for the next 2. But honestly, over the next 4, if I could only own one, I'd prefer Cunha. So lots of Ekitike questions, as you can imagine. Is keeping Thiago and getting Ekitike and switching to 3-4-3 with a cheap playing midfielder a viable option? Yes, absolutely. Because I think Ekitike is a good pick, so he's viable. And I still personally believe that Thiago is a good pick as well. So having both in a 3-4-3 is absolutely fine. And actually, when you think about it, Thiago is currently 7.1. Lots of people would have got him cheaper. If you think about the midfielders around that price, which one of those are like miles better than Thiago? I mean, Gordon has got penalties as well, but the minutes aren't quite as secure. Declan Rice is a good set and forget option. Is he miles better than Thiago? I don't think so. Cherky doesn't have the minutes. Grealish, I mean, he's not better than Thiago. So even if you think Thiago is not as good a pick as he was, he's still arguably just as good as most of the midfielders in and around 7 million. So it's absolutely fine to be on a 3-4-3. The only slight issue that I can foresee is it's probably going to cost most people at least 2 transfers to switch to this. And if it is only 2, I like it even more. If it's going to start costing 3 or 4, that's a bit more annoying. And once you switch to it, let's say something happens to Ekitike or Thiago, they get suspended or injured, you've got to move them on. Who are you happy moving to? Now, the obvious answer right now is probably just Jarrod Bowen. Like, he looks fine. But let's say the injury happens in 20 or 21. Let's say it happens after the Wolves game and Jarrod Bowen's got Forest at home, Spurs away, Sunderland at home, Chelsea away. I mean, it's okay, but it's not great. You know, Voltemada looks fine right now if you're picking up for 19 to 22 because the fixtures are great. But this is getting more and more minutes. Voltemada could even get benched soon. So, although with my own team, I am struggling a little bit with midfielders, I still feel like there's more options than the forward line. So that's the only slight issue. It's not to say you shouldn't do it, by the way, but it's going to cost you multiple transfers to get to 3-4-3. At least for most FPL managers, it will. And then if something happens to them, the pool of players that you're picking from in the forward line aren't that great. So it might cost multiple transfers to switch back. But in terms of, I've got a 3-4-3, it's got Thiago, Ekitike and HAALAND, it will look absolutely fine for a good few weeks. So do you think Frimpong is worth a punt? Gomez and Bradley are injured, Szoboszlai is suspended, even if it's just for the next 2 games. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if I was on free hit, I would definitely consider him. As a transfer in, I'm not so sure it's worth it. Like, is he that good that he's worth a transfer in and almost straight back out again? Like, Wolves at home, I'm pretty confident that he will start. And there's a great chance that he'll start against Leeds as well. But it wouldn't be guaranteed. Like, Slot held his press conference on Tuesday 23rd, which is a good few days before the Wolves match. So he won't have the complete up-to-date information about which players are and aren't available. But he did say Bradley was 50-50 to be back in the squad. So Bradley potentially could be on the bench for Wolves. Could he then start against Leeds? And if Bradley starts against Leeds and Szoboszlai is back, I mean, Szoboszlai could just play central and Frimpong plays right wing, or maybe Szoboszlai plays on the right. And then it's a Jones, McAllister and Gravenberch midfield. So you've got to be really confident in Frimpong's minutes for the next two. And even if you are that confident, I still question whether it's worth 2 transfers. Because long term, I just don't see him as a reliable option. Like the idea of him coming in and playing like 90 the next 2-3 games, I think there's risk there. Like, it's boring, but you know what I'm going to say. If you want a Liverpool defender, you should probably just front up the extra 0.2 million and buy Van Dijk. Because if you get stuck with him, he'll play against Fulham away. It's not that bad. Maybe you bench him against Arsenal away, then maybe you play him against Burnley at home. With Frimpong, it's just a lot more risk to it. So if I'm on free hit over the next 2 weeks, I would consider it. Transfer in, almost straight back out again. I'm not convinced he's that good. So Enzo Fernandez is running around 0.6 expected goal involvement per 90, has decent fixtures which will eventually turn great. Why didn't you mention him as a potential replacement for Dewsbury Hall or Bruno Fernandes? You know what? Fair comment. I should have at least considered him in the videos when I spoke about potential replacements. The reality is I have briefly considered him at times, because the fixtures overall are not bad coming up. And like you said, long term, they will turn great. If we just quickly look at Chelsea's fixtures here, from game week 22, they have got Brentford at home, Palace away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Leeds at home, Burnley at home. This run in particular, 24 to 27, is unreal. We will want 2 or 3 Chelsea players almost certainly for that period. And they're not terrible before. I think the thing with Enzo Fernandez is like a timing thing. It feels like I'd be jumping on at the wrong time. Like, lots of people owned him recently, and all the questions have been, do I sell him? Who do I sell him for? No one really is considering buying. Now, that's not a problem. Just because everyone else is doing something doesn't mean you have to as well. But you do question whether the timing is correct. Like, he's just been benched. So does that mean that his minutes are slightly worse than we thought? Or is that his only benching that he's going to get over Christmas? It's probably the latter. But it does put a little bit of doubt in your mind. Cole Palmer's back. Now, I think Palmer's minutes are going to be pretty bad, but he will get minutes. And when he's on the pitch, he's on penalties. So Enzo's just been benched. He loses penalties when Palmer's on the pitch, and he's got to play Man City away in game week 20. So I agree, his underlying numbers so far this season have been pretty great. It's probably a little bit underappreciated how well he's done, even if the actual points haven't been there. It just doesn't feel like great timing. It feels like trying to get ahead of time because of the upcoming fixtures later, just too early. Like, it really is. Like, if Palmer takes a penalty and scores and Enzo does nothing from open play, that's going to feel really bad. And then when I get to game week 20, he's got Man City away, that's not going to feel great. And I have looked at future weeks for my team, and I don't think I'm going to get to game week 20 and be able to bench him for someone better. So I'm going to have to play him. It just doesn't seem great. I think the timing is wrong to buy him. I understand what you're saying, and I don't think he's a terrible pick for 6.5. Absolutely not. I'd probably rather go for Enzo than Grealish, for example, despite Everton's better fixtures. I just don't see him coming in right now for me. So for those of us playing FPL for the first time, how bad is it to need or want to use the second wildcard early? Should the plan generally be to save it for a big pivotal moment and make sure to hold free transfers for smaller issues instead? Essentially, in the second half of the season, we will get blank and double game weeks caused by cup competitions. So I believe if it's the same as last year, if a team gets to a certain point in the FA Cup, their Premier League match, the weekend where they play their FA Cup game instead, will be postponed, and that will have to move somewhere else. Likewise, the teams that get to the Carabao Cup final usually have a blank game week, and that match moves somewhere else. So if Chelsea get to the final of the Carabao Cup, in a specific game week later on, they will have a blank game week. That game will move somewhere else, and they'll have an extra fixture. So they won't play 1 week, but they'll play 2 matches in another game week. And essentially, it's very useful to have your wildcard and free hit to manage those situations. So for example, right, I've looked at my own team loading up on Arsenal and Liverpool. They play each other in 21. That would be a really nice time to use free hit, but I know that free hit will be more useful for the blanks and the doubles. So at some point, there will be some weeks where teams don't have a fixture, and in other weeks where they have 2. And basically, situations arise where maybe you wildcard into a bunch of teams that have got 2 fixtures, and then maybe use your free hit when they're not playing, right? It just becomes very useful. Now, there are always scenarios where someone goes early with their wild card and they're just able to manage the rest of the season with free transfers and they do really well. But with most things in FPL, you're going by the likelihood of something happening or the odds, basically. And I would say for the majority of people, it is better to save those chips. You're more often than not going to get more points by using your wildcard and free hit around blanks and doubles. It's boring, but that's exactly how it works pretty much every season. And if we only had one wildcard or one free hit this season like we usually do, I would absolutely be saying save it for later on. I would not have used mine already. But because we have two, it's been okay to do that. So, yeah, save it until we know more about blanks and doubles would be the advice. So with the price changes happening at a crazy frequency, is it time to change strategy and make early transfers? I do agree that at the moment, price changes feel quite crazy. There's a huge amount happening and they're happening extremely quickly. And it hasn't been helped by the fact we all got given 5 free transfers. My hope is, in a couple of game weeks' time, most people would have blown all their transfers, so they'll stop making so many early moves. But I don't know if that will happen. Is it time to change strategy? I mean, it's always been okay to make early transfers. You have to weigh up the risk. Like, most of the time, a player you bring in doesn't get injured. Like, it can happen, and when it happens, you feel really bad about it. But the chances are that player you bring in won't get injured. So if someone this week's gone early on Ekitike Verts, they'll probably be fine. And they'll probably play in the weekend. And having extra team value is always helpful. So you have to weigh up the risk. Are you willing to risk the potential injury versus the team value you gain? And if you are, just do it. But I've always said this, right? If you're 100% sure what you're doing, and there's no like cup games in between and stuff like that, you should probably take the risk and just get the extra team value. I've already done that at some points this season. This week, I've had no clue what I wanted to do, so I haven't moved early. If I knew with absolute 100% certainty I wanted to do like Fernandes to Sharda, Thiago to Ekitike, I would have done it before the price changes. But because I'm not sure, I haven't. So I'm not sure it's a change in strategy. We just have to think about it like we always do. Like, you know, there will be times this season where there's not crazy price changes, but it's still worth going early if one player's going up and they've got no matches to play before the next deadline. So, yeah, I mean, maybe you need to think about it a bit more, but I'm not sure it requires like a massive overhaul in how we play the game, really. So what are your thoughts on Alcaraz instead of Grealish? I can see why people are looking at him. He's only 5.2 million. His minutes should be quite good in the short term, and the fixtures are great as well. So it's Burnley away, Forest away, Brentford at home, Wolves at home, next 4. The problem with bringing him in is we're not quite sure at the time of recording how long Dewsbury Hall is out for. So therefore, you don't know how long Alcaraz is going to be an option for. I suspect that Dewsbury Hall will miss at least the next 3 to 4 games, and those games are good. So as a short-term move, it's okay. But even if Dewsbury Hall was out for a long time, could Everton strengthen in January? Bring in a new player, either buying them or on loan? Possibly. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know for how long Alcaraz's minutes are good for. And then I think about bringing him in, and okay, it's Burnley away, so that's good. But if I have to transfer him back out again soon, is that really worth it? Like, how good can this guy really be? And again, I'm probably subconsciously a little bit biased against him because I feel like I've got a lot of problems to deal with in my team. I don't want to have to bring in a 5.2 player to sell him again. But you need to consider that stuff as well. I mean, so far, if we look at the minutes he's had, you know, since the injury and stuff, I think it's around 70, yeah. 74, 74, 72, 79. That's his last 4 games. So he does look like a pretty much nailed on starter. But for how long? How many transfers are you willing to commit to a player like this? Like, I kind of feel that Anderson at Forest, who's 5.4, is just a lot safer. 90 minutes every single week. Like, it's not exciting, but for 0.2 million, you save yourself a transfer later on. Like, Everton's fixtures are good, but are they that good to bring in someone like Alcaraz? I'm just not convinced by it. With Dewsbury Hall, you've got a 5 million player that's nailed on for 90 minutes pretty much every game when he's fit and available. None of those things are true with Alcaraz. So, in theory, I get it. For most people, I'd probably avoid. So with no Salah or Szoboszlai, who will be on penalties for Liverpool in Game Week 18? Because obviously Szoboszlai will be back for Game Week 19, so presumably he will take over penalty duties. I know people want it to be Ekitike, and it might be. And it might be a game state thing. Let's say Liverpool are 3-0 up, and Ekitike's got 2 goals and they win a penalty. Maybe he will just take it for the hat-trick. But I suspect if it's 0-0, McAllister takes. His record's pretty good. He scored 12, only missed 1. For Ekitike, he scored 3 and missed 4. So actually, in the last season in the Bundesliga, 24-25, he scored 1 penalty, missed 2. McAllister's taken 12, missed 1. And a lot of those penalties were in the Premier League. Only 2 of them weren't. So I suspect it'll be McAllister. Should that put you off going for Ekitike? Absolutely not. He's still got lots of goal threat from open play. Should you consider McAllister as an option for 6.2 million? I'm not convinced. Like, going for a player just because they got penalties for 1 week possibly doesn't feel great for me. Like, I don't think he's a good pick afterwards. So I probably wouldn't let the penalty situation affect your moves for 18 specifically. But obviously keep in mind from 19 onwards, while Isak is injured and Salah is at AFCON, we are expecting Szoboszlai to be first choice. So he's kind of been forgotten about this week because he's suspended. But from 90 and onwards with guaranteed minutes, he still looks like quite a good option. So what do you think of Mohamed Kudus as a short-term punt between game weeks 19 and 23? Now, the Spurs fixtures are basically Crystal Palace away this week in game week 18. Then after that, it is not bad, to be fair. Brentford away, Sunderland at home, Bournemouth away, West Ham at home. So I can see why people would maybe think about Kudus. It's also worth pointing out that in a European game recently, Kudus took a penalty when Richarlison was on the pitch. So there is a chance he's first choice penalty taker, although we don't have a huge amount of data to go on to like 100% confirm that. Basically, I can never get excited about Kudus as a pick. Like, he is a good, like, I feel like this is just broken record. I've said this so many times about him, both at West Ham and now Spurs. He's a really good player. But for FPL, I'm just not sure the points are there. Like 0.11 expected goals per 90, 0.16 expected assists. That's not that great. He doesn't have much goal threat and he's not that creative either. Like, he does a lot of good stuff for Spurs, progressing the ball, etc. And of course he will get the odd goal and assist because his minutes are just good, but it's not going to come as regularly as it probably should. So, look, if you're absolutely sure he's on penalties and the minutes are going to be really good, those 4 fixtures are not bad. But without the penalties, which aren't guaranteed, I just don't particularly think he's great. I mean, even the last game against Liverpool, he was subbed off before the 60th minute. 79, 79, 86, 90 before that. I mean, he did get a lot of 90 minutes earlier, but more recently that hasn't happened. In fact, in the last 6 game weeks, he's only played 90 once. So the minutes aren't quite... He's still going to start pretty much every game, I would expect, but the minutes aren't quite so good. He's not guaranteed those penalties, and his stats are just rubbish. Like, are those fixtures good enough to make him a pick? I mean, look, it's one of those things right now that if you ask me for a bunch of other options around 6.4, I'm going to struggle. Like, Grealish, if you want to take a punt, got good fixtures. Cherky, if you think the minutes will continue being good, is all right as well. Harry Wilson, I wouldn't buy now. You've missed like 2 of his good fixtures that he had. There's not a huge amount of picks. So I guess for 6.4 or below, there's worse players you could go for. I don't know. Okay, let's say you get to... Yeah, okay, you've said 19 to 23. I'd probably just buy Szoboszlai for 0.3 million more. Take the guaranteed 90s pretty much every week and the penalties. Like, Szoboszlai doesn't have great underlying numbers either, but he's probably got better minutes, and I think I'd be more confident about him taking penalties as well. So yeah, like, anytime someone says to me like a short-term punt, most of the time it's fine. If you want to take a literal punt, Kudus is okay. Do I think he's a really great pick though? Not really. So is Van Dijk still an option to buy? Yes. I know he hasn't been great, and I'm not particularly happy that I've owned him for so long personally, but it is Wolves at home, Leeds at home next to. He'll definitely play. Defcons, potential for clean sheets, attacking threat as well. It's not awful if you have to play him against Fulham away in 20. 22 is Burnley at home. So game week 21 against Arsenal away is the only real bad fixture in the next 5 for a player you know will start every single game over Christmas who is less than 6 million. So I wouldn't go out of my way to get him, but I know there's people looking for a new defender that have that money to spend. I don't think it's crazy, despite what's happened recently. Liverpool are clearly not as good as they were last year from a defensive point of view, and that is worrying, but they still have some good fixtures coming up. Just bear in mind, I said this weeks ago, and they didn't get many points. But I think Van Dijk is capable of doing better than he has. So is he an option to buy? Yes. Do you have to... Like, he's not essential. But if you need a new defender and you've got that money to spend and it's not going to affect the rest of your plans, I think it's okay to bring him in certain situations. So what do you think of Crystal Palace defenders? Is it time to sell them if we can? They haven't been great recently. Now, in terms of buying them, I probably would avoid. Like, it wouldn't be terrible to buy a Richards at 4.6 because they do have 3 home games in the next 4. But also, from game week 20, it's Newcastle away, Villa at home, Sunderland away, Chelsea at home. Not great. So I think they're okay to buy, but I'd probably look elsewhere. If I've got them, though, I would not be in a panic whatsoever. If you've got to play them against Spurs at home and or Fulham at home, I think that's fine. Like, on paper, both those fixtures are pretty good. Palace defence has been quite good as well this season. I know it's not been so good recently, but that can happen. Like, on paper, they're fine. Next 2. Most of them are good for Defcons. They've also got some attacking threat as well. I just wouldn't see a need to panic. Like, I sold Lacroix 2 weeks ago to free up some money to get Foden. Had I not made that move, I'm pretty sure I'd just be playing Lacroix this week. And then probably playing him against Fulham at home as well. Like, it's perfectly fine. Obviously, we're talking about this after they got smashed by Leeds, which wasn't great. And I think the expected goals conceded in that game was terrible. Yeah, 2.67. Before that, though, 1.19 against City, which included a penalty. 0.76 against Fulham, who they're about to play again, only this time at home. 0.95 against Burnley. Like, it really hasn't been terrible. 1.19 against Man United. Wolves away was a bit weird, 1.79, but 0.38 Brighton, 0.54 Brentford. They're still a fairly good defence. I know there's a lot of talk about them being tired, etc., but they play Arsenal on Tuesday night. The Spurs game's not till Sunday, and then they don't play Fulham till Thursday. So they've actually got quite a bit of rest between these 2 games. So by all means, if you need to sell them for some reason because there's someone better you want to get in, fair enough, but I would not be sat there panicked. And in most cases, I'd probably rather play the Palace defender for the next 2 weeks and save a transfer rather than getting rid of them. So I can't remember exactly who asked this, but I've seen it come up a couple of times. So let's go through it now. If we were saving triple captain for Bruno Fernandes in game week 19, who should we use it on instead? Now, if you want to use it on Erling Haaland, I would just go this week because it's Forest away in 18, Sunderland away in 19. I don't think there's too much to split those fixtures in terms of difficulty. So you should just use Haaland now while he's fit, because there is a chance he gets suspended or injured for game week 19. Seems unlikely you get a red card to get suspended, but you never know. And the funny thing is, when we were talking about triple captain before, I said about Bruno Fernandes, the one issue with saving it for him is what if he gets injured? And I felt so stupid at the time saying that, because Fernandes never gets injured, but these things can happen. So if you want to go Haaland, just use it this week, because Sunderland away is not that much better. Honestly, though, and this is very easy for me to say when I've already used my triple captain this season, I'd be very tempted to not use it on Haaland. Like, Forest away is fine. Sunderland away is also fine. But they're not amazing fixtures. Whereas you've got Ekitike this week against Wolves at home, or maybe even someone like Cunha against Wolves at home in game week 19. Now, again, if you want to save it for Cunha, you run the risk that he gets injured by game week 19. So there is some risk there. But on paper, he's still going to get chances even without Bruno. He could be on penalties as well. And Wolves at home is a great fixture. So Cunha looks nice. I wonder if Ekitike is the one, though. I still don't know, after talking about it earlier, whether Ekitike is definitely better than Haaland. But what I do know is it's absolutely reasonable to consider going against Haaland this week with Ekitike if you own him. So that is where I would be looking. I just think Haaland's, like, if you haven't triple captain Haaland for Burnley at home, West Ham at home, Leeds at home, etc., why use it now? I guess the reason to use it now is because Bruno is no longer an option. But I just feel like if you've dodged all the other good fixtures for Haaland, just keep dodging him. So go for Ekitike this week, or if you're willing to risk no injury, Cunha 19. I think that's where I'd be looking. So I'm going to leave that one there. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found it useful, and hopefully the answers to the questions and the topics discussed in this video haven't been completely outdated in between the time I recorded it and the time that it went out. It's currently 11:54 AM when I'm recording this video, and it's not going out until Christmas Day. You know what football and FPL is like. There'll be some kind of injury news, but hopefully I've gotten away with it. For the rest of the content this season, almost every time the video will be recorded the day it goes out. so I'll always be completely up to date. But because it's Christmas, time for family, etc., I decided to record this on the 23rd. Hopefully you understand. Hopefully this was still useful, and hopefully you're enjoying your day, whatever you are doing. I will be back tomorrow for the deadline stream on Boxing Day, 26th of December. The deadline is 6:30 UK time in the evening, so I'll be live from 4:30 PM. So hopefully you'll join me for that. If not, enjoy whatever you're doing, and I'll catch you again soon.